Off the coast of Japan, 25 meters underwater, lies a stepped stone structure the height of a 9-story building. Off the coast of India, divers found the remains of city walls described in a text 3,000 years old. In Greece, an entire Bronze Age city still sits underwater, every street still visible, even though it is 5,000 years old. In Egypt, a single night of earthquakes and tsunamis swallowed Cleopatra's palace, along with its granite sphinxes. And in Italy, the ground is rising and sinking right now above a resort built by Roman emperors, because a supervolcano is breathing underneath it. These 5 cities are not fiction, and they are not campfire legends. Each one has exact coordinates, museum catalogs, and scientific reports that anyone can check. Today, we are going through all 5, starting with the object that geologists still cannot agree on. 1986. The coast of Yonaguni Island, the westernmost point of Japan, a couple of hours by boat from Taiwan. A diver named Kihachiro Aratake goes underwater looking for a spot to watch hammerhead sharks, which gather here in schools during a certain season. Instead, at a depth of about 25 meters, he finds a massive stepped structure stretching dozens of meters in length and width. Straight edges, flat terraces, stacked one above another. Something that looks like a staircase carved for beings 3 times the height of a human. The scale of the find stuns even skeptics. The structure runs roughly 150 meters long, about 40 meters wide, and rises to a depth of 27 meters, starting almost at the surface. For comparison, that is about 3 Olympic swimming pools placed end to end, fully carved or shaped into the form of a giant underwater staircase. Geologists split into 2 camps almost immediately, and the argument has never settled. Some argue this is purely a natural formation, the result of thousands of years of erosion on layered sandstone, a rock type that naturally splits into flat horizontal slabs. That rock type does exist, and similar slabs can be found on land nearby, on Yonaguni itself, as natural rock steps. Others point to details that are hard to explain through erosion alone. Corners that sit almost exactly at 90 degrees. Steps of nearly identical height, repeating dozens of times in a row. Small holes that look like carved sockets. Something resembling a straight road running alongside the structure and leading into nothing. No single one of these details is conclusive proof on its own. Together, they form a picture that part of the research community refuses to call a coincidence of nature. The age of the rock, according to some researchers, points to a period when this location sat above sea level, not underwater. 10,000 years ago, and by some estimates even earlier, ocean levels in this region were significantly lower than today because of the last ice age. Long before official history allows for the existence of developed civilizations in this part of the Pacific. If the structure really is man-made, someone built it at a time when, according to textbooks, the only people here were hunter-gatherers who knew nothing about cities or stonework. People without cities do not carve staircases the length of 3 Olympic pools. The official position of the Japanese government has remained cautious for decades. No major state funding has ever been allocated for large-scale underwater excavation of the site. The structure remains open to recreational diving. Licensed dive centers regularly bring groups out to it, but it remains closed off from any full international scientific consensus. The question of Yonaguni's origin has been hanging in the water, literally and figuratively, for almost 40 years. And given the lack of new, large-scale expeditions, it looks set to keep hanging there. Professor Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has spent more than 20 years studying the site and made dozens of personal dives to the structure himself. His conclusion is unambiguous. This is a man-made monument, not a trick of nature. Standing firmly against him is a portion of the geological community in the United States and Europe, who point to the total absence of stone tools, pottery, or any other cultural artifacts anywhere near the structure. Both sides are looking at the exact same photographs of the sea floor. The conclusions remain diametrically opposed. If Yonaguni divides geologists, the next site is tied to a text 3,000 years old, and to a city long dismissed as pure fiction. The Indian epics Mahabharata and the later Puranas describe a city called Dwarka, the legendary capital of a ruler named Krishna, located on the coast in the western part of the Indian subcontinent. According to legend, the city was swallowed by the ocean within hours of the ruler's death, as if it were punishment from the gods for the sins of its people. For a long time, this was treated purely as religious myth, a metaphor with no physical reality behind it. Then, starting in 1983, Indian underwater archaeologists from the National Institute of Oceanography began systematic excavations in the Gulf of Khambat and in the coastal waters off the modern city of Dwarka in the state of Gujarat. On the seabed, they found large stone walls, the remains of docking structures, pottery fragments, and stone anchors, all pointing to a large, well-organized port settlement. The dating of these finds became the subject of an extremely heated scientific dispute that continues to this day. Some researchers place the objects within the well-documented Indus Valley civilization, which existed several thousand years ago. Others, based on analysis of underwater samples and the depth at which the artifacts were found, argue for a far older age, reaching thousands of years deeper than the officially recognized timeline for the entire South Asian region. If the second version turns out to be correct, we are looking at either the greatest archaeological sensation of the 20th century, one that would rewrite the history of ancient civilizations entirely, or a serious systemic error in underwater dating methods that has never been corrected or officially acknowledged. There is no third option so far, and the amount of new research needed for a definitive answer is, frankly, far from sufficient. The Indian government treats the site with extreme caution, and that adds another layer of tension to the story. Full access to excavation materials for independent foreign research teams is significantly restricted. Official reports are published only partially, without a complete database of findings. The stated reason, according to the Indian side, is protecting a site of cultural and religious heritage from uncontrolled tourism and looting. Skeptics see this secrecy as an attempt to avoid a broader international discussion of dates that could shake up established historical chronology. Also worth attention are the results of sonar scanning conducted by Indian oceanographers in 2001 in a different bay along the coast of Gujarat, north of Dwarka. The instruments detected regular geometric structures at a depth of nearly 40 meters, noticeably deeper than Dwarka itself. If these structures really are man-made, we are not talking about a single sunken city anymore, but an entire coastal civilization that went underwater at different times in different parts of the same bay. Additional evidence for the site's age comes from fossilized freshwater shells and traces of wooden structures recovered from the same section of seabed. Freshwater fauna at this depth means a river once flowed here, and the entire area was dry land long before the ocean covered it. Radiocarbon analysis of the wood samples produced a result far older than the age official chronology assigns to this region for the emergence of organized settlements. Rivers do not flow across the ocean floor, which means there was no ocean floor here at all once. Here, science finally agrees with the legend, and that is what makes the next story different from the first two. The Peloponnese, southern Greece, the Laconic Gulf near the modern village of Plios. At a depth of just 3 to 4 meters, shallow enough for snorkeling without any special equipment, lies Pavlopetri, a Bronze Age city officially recognized as one of the oldest fully submerged settlements on the planet. Unlike Yonaguni and Dwarka, the scientific consensus here is far more solid and is barely disputed by serious researchers. The age of the site has been confirmed through multiple independent dating methods, including analysis of pottery found directly on site, and is estimated at roughly 5,000 years, with some layers of construction reaching even further back. From the air, and even more so from a small drone, the city is visible almost in its entirety, which is rare for a submerged settlement of this age. Streets laid out in a strict rectangular grid, pointing to deliberate urban planning, clearly defined house foundations, separate burial structures, tombs, courtyards between buildings, everything needed for a full scientific reconstruction of Bronze Age city life, without guesswork or assumptions. The one thing conspicuously missing from this site is mass graves or any clear, unambiguous signs of a sudden, violent catastrophe, like a fire or a single destructive blow. That absence pushed researchers toward a very different conclusion about the city's fate, one that is far less dramatic but scientifically far more accurate. Pavlopetri, it seems, was not destroyed by a single disaster. The city sank slowly but completely irreversibly as the coastline gradually subsided due to prolonged tectonic activity in this part of the Mediterranean. The process, according to geologists' estimates, stretched over several centuries, not a single day. Based on the archaeological evidence, Residents were likely able to leave gradually as the water crept in, without mass panic or sudden catastrophe. The most unsettling part of this story is not the past, but the region's current state. The Peloponnese remains one of the most seismically active zones in the entire Mediterranean, with regular, moderate to strong earthquakes. Modern geologists, using precise satellite positioning systems, are still tracking the exact same process of gradual coastal subsidence that irreversibly sank Pavlopetri thousands of years ago, right here along this same stretch of Greek coastline. A team from Cambridge University, conducting detailed three-dimensional mapping of the city in 2009, discovered an even earlier layer of construction beneath the already known buildings, dating to a period before the construction of Egypt's famous pyramids. This means Pavlopetri was inhabited long before the rise of the ancient Egyptian civilization we are familiar with, and what lies underwater is not one city, but at least two, built one on top of the other across different millennia. One city hidden beneath another, and both hidden beneath the sea. The total surveyed area exceeds 30,000 square meters, making Pavlopetri one of the largest fully mapped underwater Bronze Age settlements in the world. In 2021, Greece officially opened the country's first underwater archaeological trail right at this site, allowing certified recreational divers to legally swim along marked routes between the ancient walls without risking damage to the site. What happened to Pavlopetri over the course of centuries? The next city on our list went through in a single night, and that fundamentally shifts the tone of the entire story. Alexandria, Egypt, the eastern edge of the Nile Delta. Once the capital of the entire Hellenistic world, the city of the legendary Cleopatra and the famous Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the ancient world. In the 4th century AD, specifically in the year 365, a series of extremely powerful earthquakes centered near Crete, followed by a devastating tsunami, literally dropped an entire coastal district of ancient Alexandria straight into the waters of the Mediterranean. Chronicles from that period describe a wave that lifted ships and threw them onto the rooftops of coastal buildings, right before the ground beneath the district finally gave way. An entire district of the city, including elements of the legendary royal palace complex, temple structures, and, quite possibly, part of a compound directly connected to Queen Cleopatra's name, sank beneath the water of Alexandria's eastern harbor, essentially forever. French underwater archaeologists led by Franck Godiot, who began systematic, meticulously documented excavations in the late 20th century, have brought to the surface dozens of colossal stone statues, fragments of sphinxes, massive granite blocks carved with hieroglyphs, and remarkably well-preserved remains of palace foundations. This is no longer a hypothesis loaded with caveats, the way Yonaguni or Dwarka still are, where part of the scientific community continues to dispute whether the object is even man-made at all. The underwater complex known today as the Cleopatrion is one of the most thoroughly and rigorously documented sunken city districts anywhere on the planet. The dating has been fully confirmed through independent methods. The cause of the disaster is precisely established through geological and historical data, and the finds themselves have long been cataloged and put on display in museums in Egypt and France. It is precisely this exceptional certainty that makes the story of the Cleopatrion so unsettling. The city existed, thrived, and served as an actual center of political power for an entire Mediterranean civilization for centuries. And then, in the span of a single night, a short chain of geological events sent a significant part of it underwater forever, with no chance of recovery. The exact scenario used to scare audiences in disaster movies about suddenly sunken civilizations is here not a screenwriter's invention, but a dry line in official archaeological and seismological reports. According to Egyptian authorities, the submerged district covers an area of about 5 square kilometers, comparable to the size of several dozen modern city blocks. Excavations across an area this large have been underway for nearly 3 decades, and, by the archaeologists' own admission, are far from finished. A significant portion of the Cleopatrion remains buried under silt and sediment that has accumulated over 16 centuries since the disaster. Among the most notable finds is a pink granite sphinx, believed to depict Cleopatra's father, brought up from the harbor floor in nearly perfect condition. Nearby, archaeologists found the remains of a smaller lighthouse that stood at the entrance to the royal harbor long before the famous Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, was ever built. 16 centuries underwater, and the Sphinx's face is still recognizable. Egyptian authorities have repeatedly announced plans to build an underwater museum directly at the excavation site, allowing visitors to view the sunken city through transparent tunnels without ever bringing the finds to the surface. The last city on our list is the only one where the disaster, if you can even call it that, has never actually ended and is still unfolding right now. Baia, on the Bay of Naples, southern Italy, about half an hour's drive from modern-day Naples. In the Roman era, this was a fashionable resort for the empire's elite. Emperors, powerful senators, and the wealthiest patrician families of Rome came here regularly to enjoy the famous natural hot springs and luxurious villas overlooking the bay. The reason Baia is partially underwater today is fundamentally different from all 4 previous cases on this list. This city was not taken by a sudden, destructive earthquake, nor by gradual coastal erosion from waves. The cause here lies in a rare geological phenomenon known as bradyseism, a slow, cyclical vertical movement of the Earth's crust, driven directly by the movement of molten magma in an underground volcanic chamber sitting right beneath this stretch of coastline. For centuries, the ground here has risen and fallen, responding directly to the ongoing activity of the massive Campiflagre supervolcano, whose caldera sits partly beneath the residential neighborhoods of the modern region. At a certain point in history, the coastal land dropped so significantly that a substantial part of this luxurious Roman resort city ended up completely submerged beneath the waters of the Bay of Naples. Today, Baia officially operates as a full underwater archaeological park, open to organized dives. Licensed divers can freely swim among the well-preserved mosaic floors of Roman villas, the standing columns of ancient bathhouses, and marble statues still resting on the seafloor, looking almost as if they were placed there yesterday rather than nearly 2,000 years ago. But the most important part of this story is not happening underwater at all. It is happening on the surface, right now. Geologists conducting continuous monitoring of the area report that the ground within the Campiflagre caldera continues to move actively today, in something close to real time. The land here rises several centimeters over the course of a single calendar year, then sinks again, depending directly on the current activity of the magma chamber deep below. The exact same geological process that once irreversibly sank a luxury resort city for the elite of ancient Rome is still happening right beneath the feet of thousands of people living on the Italian coast today. In the 1980s, ground uplift in the neighboring town of Pozzuoli became so intense that authorities were forced to fully evacuate several thousand residents from the coastal district. The ground rose nearly 2 meters within just a few years, cracking building foundations and damaging part of the port infrastructure. The land is rising faster than houses can be built. The region is officially classified as one of the few supervolcanoes on the planet, capable of a catastrophic eruption on a scale comparable to the largest volcanic events in human history. Italian seismologists record thousands of minor tremors in this area every year, and the number has been steadily increasing in recent years. Part of the scientific community is openly warning that the current phase of activity resembles the warning signs that preceded major eruptions in the past. Regional authorities have already drawn up emergency evacuation plans for more than 500,000 people living in the danger zone around the caldera, in case the situation rapidly worsens. 5 cities, 5 fundamentally different reasons for ending up underwater, tied together by one common thread: a long, unresolved dispute over erosion on the Japanese continental shelf, a fierce dispute over dating in an Indian coastal bay, a clearly confirmed but extremely slow sinking of land in Greece, stretched out over centuries, an instant, devastating catastrophe on a single night in Egypt, and a living, ongoing geological process happening right now, in this very second, in Italy. The common denominator across all 5 stories is simple to state and deeply uncomfortable in what it implies. All 5 locations sit in zones where the Earth's crust remains geologically active. Not active only thousands of years ago, at the moment each city went under, still active today, at this exact moment, right now, as you finish reading this. The real question stopped being whether these 5 ancient cities actually existed. Their physical existence has already been thoroughly and reliably confirmed through official excavations, statues brought up to the surface, preserved building foundations, and detailed scientific reports from research institutions around the world. The real question is a different one entirely. What will happen to the next coastal city on the planet when the exact same geological force that has already sunk 5 before it decides to move again. If you want to hear about places like this before anyone else, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because new investigations come out regularly. And let us know in the comments which of these 5 cities scares you the most and why.